I'm Kylie.
It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, for months after the divorce was finalized. I'd stopped at a coffee shop in Scottsdale on my way home from work. This upscale place with reclaimed wood tables, Edison bulb lighting, and a chalkboard menu full of unpronounceable drinks was my regular stop. As I stood at the pickup counter, scrolling through work emails while waiting for my usual afternoon latte, a voice from behind me said, "Kylie." The familiarity of that voice made my stomach tighten even before I turned around. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked completely different from the confident, put-together woman I'd seen at the charity gala. She was thinner, not in a healthy way, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite cover. She was wearing jeans and a plain shirt that hung loose on her frame, her blonde highlights grown out to reveal dark roots, and her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like someone who'd been through something devastating. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. "Please." The coffee shop was bustling. People were working on laptops at every table, and a line was forming behind me at the counter. The hiss of the espresso machine and the low murmur of conversation created a white noise that wasn't quite private, but also not completely public. When the barista called my name, I picked up my latte. "We have nothing to talk about," I said. "Please, just 5 minutes. I know I don't have any right to ask, but—" Her voice cracked slightly. "Please." Against every instinct telling me to walk away, against my better judgment, and against the part of me that knew this conversation couldn't possibly end well, I gestured toward a corner table. We sat. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup as if trying to warm herself, even though it was September in Arizona and still 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside. "I wanted to apologize," she began. I almost laughed. "You're about 4 months too late." I know I am. But I needed to see you to tell you face to face that I'm sorry for everything." "Are we done?" I asked. She flinched. "I need you to understand something. I didn't know he was lying. About being separated, about you not knowing about us, about the divorce being in progress. He told me you two had an arrangement, that the marriage was open, that you both dated other people, and it wasn't a secret." I stared at her for a long moment. Part of me wanted to believe she was that naive, that she'd genuinely been fooled by his lies. But I'd seen her at that gala, the satisfaction in her eyes when he dismissed me, the way she touched him, performing intimacy with my husband right in front of me without a trace of guilt or uncertainty. "You thought I didn't know?" Even at the fundraiser, when I was standing right there watching you touch him, when he told me to leave, and you just stood there smiling. "You thought I was okay with it?" Her face crumpled. "I thought he said you had an understanding that you both had been living separate lives for years, that the marriage was over, and everything but paperwork." He was so convincing, Kylie. He showed me texts that he said were from you agreeing to see other people. He had explanations for everything. He's a salesman, Lila. Being convincing is literally his job. It's what he does for a living. He makes people believe things that benefit him. She started crying. Not a dramatic sobbing, just quiet tears sliding down her face as she stared at her coffee cup. I know that now. But when you're in it, when someone's telling you exactly what you want to hear, it's hard to see the lies. I felt nothing watching her cry. No satisfaction, no anger, no sympathy, just a hollow emptiness where stronger emotions probably should have been. "I lost everything," she whispered. "My job, my reputation, my apartment. I couldn't afford rent after getting fired, and my roommate kicked me out because she didn't want the drama. I had to move back in with my parents in Sacramento. I'm 26 years old, sleeping in my childhood bedroom, working at Target because I can't get a reference for my last job. Every interview I go to, they Google my name and find out what happened. My career is over before it really started." I took a sip of my latte, letting the silence stretch. "Then you made your choices. You chose to sleep with a married man. Maybe he lied to you. I actually believe he probably did, but you still made that choice. And choices have consequences." "I know. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm trying to explain." "You don't need to explain. I understand perfectly. You wanted something that belonged to someone else and you took it without caring who got hurt. The only difference between you and Ryan is that he had more to lose. but you're both the same kind of selfish." She looked up at me, mascara smudged around her red eyes. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know nothing I say will make this better, but I needed you to know that I'm sorry for all of it. For believing him, for not asking more questions, for hurting you." I stood up, gathering my things. "Your apology doesn't change anything. It doesn't give me back the marriage I thought I had. It doesn't erase the humiliation of watching my husband flirt with you in public while you smiled like you'd won something. And it definitely doesn't make me feel sorry for you." She looked up at me with those swollen eyes. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Figure it out. The same way I did after your affair destroyed my marriage. The same way everyone does when they have to deal with the consequences of their choices." I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "For what it's worth, Lila, Ryan would have done this to you eventually, too. Men who cheat don't suddenly become faithful just because they've upgraded to a newer model. If you'd ended up together, you would have been me in 5 years. Sitting at home wondering why he's working late so often, finding hotel receipts in his pockets, watching him flirt with the next young coworker. You didn't win anything. You just delayed your own heartbreak." Her face crumpled completely. I didn't wait to see if she'd respond. I just turned and walked out into the September heat, the automatic doors closing behind me, sealing off that conversation permanently. As I got in my car and sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, I started to think about how it all began. Ryan and I met at a business seminar when I was 28. He was 30, a sales manager at a large tech company. He had this infectious smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He actually listened when I talked about my job as a senior accountant at a non-profit auditing firm in Phoenix. He didn't bat an eye when I ordered the most expensive item on the menu. He made me laugh during a discussion about financial regulations, which I didn't think was possible. We got married a year later in a beautiful ceremony planned by his mother, a very traditional and proper woman. She spared no expense, and the wedding was a dream. We bought a renovated bungalow in a nice neighborhood, with both our names on the mortgage. The house had original hardwood floors and a small backyard garden that we spent many weekends working on together. For the first few years, we were great. We were what people called a power couple. Dual income, no kids yet, and a life that seemed to be going somewhere. We packed each other's lunches, split the chores without arguing, and had a bunch of inside jokes. But around the 4th year of our marriage, things started to change. The man who used to ask about my day stopped asking. The man who used to kiss me goodbye in the morning started leaving for work before I woke up. Our conversations became short and transactional. "Who's picking up groceries? Did you pay the electric bill? I'll be home late tonight." I told myself it was normal, that marriage has matured, and that expecting the same passion after 6 years was unrealistic. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. It all started with his phone. Ryan had never been protective of it before. He'd leave it on the table while he showered, toss it on the couch during movies, and hand it to me if mine was dead, and I needed to look something up. But one Tuesday morning in late July, I woke up and noticed it face down on his nightstand. It wasn't just casually placed, it was deliberately positioned, so I couldn't see the screen. When I picked it up to check the weather, something I'd done 100 times before, I found it locked with a password I didn't know. "New security protocol at work," Ryan said when I asked over coffee that morning. He didn't even look up from his toast. "The company got hacked last month. They're making everyone use biometrics and complex passwords. It's a big hassle, but they're serious about it." It sounded reasonable. Everything Ryan said always sounded reasonable. That's what made him good at sales. He could make anything sound logical and necessary, like I was the paranoid one for questioning it. But then, a pattern emerged that I couldn't explain away so easily. He started coming home late on Wednesdays and Fridays, like clockwork. Around 5 p.m. My phone would buzz with a text saying, "Client dinner running late. Don't wait up." There were never any details about which client or which restaurant, and he never invited me to join. He'd come home around 10 or sometimes later, smelling like wine, and a floral perfume that definitely wasn't mine. It was lighter, younger, and more expensive than anything I wore. He'd go straight to the shower, saying he felt grimy from the restaurant, from shaking hands all evening, and from the cigarette smoke on the patio where deals were supposedly closed. One night, after a quiet dinner at home, one of the few nights he was actually there, I casually suggested, maybe I could come to one of these client dinners sometime. It might be nice to meet the people you work with. He stopped scrubbing the pan he was holding. That's not really appropriate, Kylie. These are high-stakes prospects. They wouldn't appreciate a spouse tagging along. It would make things uncomfortable and kill the rapport I'm building. I'm good at talking to people. I do it at work all the time, I said. It's different. Trust me on this. So I dropped it, but I didn't stop noticing things. A name started appearing in our conversations with uncomfortable frequency. Lila. At first, it was just normal work stuff. Lila from marketing put together a great campaign deck today. Or Lila had an interesting idea about our next project. But by early August, her name was coming up multiple times a day. Lila thinks we should target a younger demographic. Lila's proposal got approved by the management. Lila is really smart. You'd probably like her. I started counting after the third day of this. 19 mentions in 4 days. 19 times my husband said another woman's name with a brightness in his voice that he didn't use when he talked about me anymore. 19 times I felt a pang in my chest that I tried to ignore. I also noticed how his face changed when his phone lit up with notifications. He'd be staring at the screen with this small, private smile, the kind of smile people get when they're texting someone who makes them happy. Then, as soon as I walked into the room, he'd quickly lock the phone. He started angling his body away from me when he typed, physically shielding whatever conversation he was having. One night, I walked into the living room and found him on the couch, grinning at his phone. When he heard my footsteps, he jumped slightly and locked the screen so fast he almost dropped it. "Who are you texting?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Just Mark from work. He sent a funny meme about the boss." "Can I see it?" His expression shifted. "Why?" "It's just a stupid meme. Why are you making this weird?" And there it was again. I was the one making things weird. Not his secrecy, not the password-protected phone, not the late nights, and not the constant mention of Lila. Me for noticing, for asking questions, for wanting to see what made my husband happier than I apparently did anymore. I tried asking about Lila directly once. We were eating takeout Chinese food in front of the TV because we'd stopped sitting at the dinner table months ago. I said it as casually as I could. "This Lila you mention a lot. How long has she been with the company?" Ryan's entire body went rigid. "Why are you asking?" "Just curious. You talk about her quite a bit." "She's a colleague, Kylie, a coworker. Why do you have to interrogate me about every person I mention from work?" "I'm not interrogating. I'm asking a simple question." "It doesn't feel simple. It feels like you're keeping tabs on me, like you don't trust me. That's not healthy." My face got hot. "I do trust you. I'm just trying to understand why you mention one specific coworker 19 times in 4 days." His fork clattered against his plate. "Are you seriously counting how many times I mention people? That's not normal. That's controlling." And just like that, I was the problem. Not his obvious infatuation with someone else. Not the lies about where he was spending his evenings. Not the hotel receipt I'd found 2 weeks earlier tucked in his suit pocket. Kimpton Hotel, Old Town, Scottsdale, $385. Checked out at 11:47 p.m. On a night he claimed he was at a client dinner. Me. I was the problem for noticing, for counting, for making everything weird. So I stopped asking, but I didn't stop paying attention. 3 weeks before the charity gala, Ryan came home actually energized for the first time in months. He found me in the kitchen making dinner and said, "The Children's Hospital fundraiser is coming up. It's at a fancy hotel this year." I looked up from chopping vegetables. "Okay, I think we should both go. It's a great networking opportunity, and your company sponsors it, right? You could write it off as a business expense." I stopped chopping. Ryan had been to this fundraiser twice before. Both times he'd complained about it being too formal, too boring, and having too many speeches from donors who loved hearing themselves talk. Both times he'd gone alone, saying it wasn't worth me taking the night off. And now, suddenly, he wanted me there. I should have seen it as a red flag, but I was so desperate for any sign that he still wanted me around, that I still mattered to him, that our marriage wasn't completely dead. I ignored every instinct telling me something was wrong. Yeah, I said, trying not to sound too eager. That sounds nice. We haven't been to something like that together in a while.
Exactly.
It'll be good for us. That weekend, I went shopping for a new dress. A beautiful emerald green, fitted, and elegant dress, the kind that used to make Ryan stop whatever he was doing and tell me I looked beautiful. I got my hair done at a salon I couldn't really afford and bought new heels that pinched my toes but made my legs look good. I convinced myself that maybe this event would be the reset we needed, the night we'd reconnect and remember why we got married in the first place. I was so painfully wrong. The Friday of the gala arrived faster than I was ready for. I spent the afternoon getting ready with an anxious energy I couldn't quite name, telling myself it was excitement, that tonight would be good for us, that maybe Ryan's invitation meant he was trying. He came home around 5 to find me in my emerald green dress, my hair styled in loose waves that had taken the salon an hour to perfect. I waited for him to notice, to say something, to give me any indication that he saw me. He walked past me toward the bedroom without a word. "You look nice," I offered, watching him pull his suit from the closet. "Thanks," he said absently, checking his phone. I stood in the doorway while he changed, watching him adjust his tie in the mirror for what must have been the 4th time. He tilted his head, smoothed down the fabric, and checked his profile from both angles. It was more attention than he'd given me in months. "So, should we leave around 6:30? I asked. He didn't turn around. "Actually, I need to stop by the office first. There are some last-minute tweaks to a presentation I'm giving on Monday. You should just go ahead, and I'll meet you there." Something cold settled in my stomach. We're going to the same place. Why don't I just wait, and we can go together? Because I don't know how long it'll take, and I don't want you sitting in the car waiting for me. Just go ahead. I'll be there soon. He sprayed cologne, too much of it. The scent filled our bedroom in a way that felt aggressive. Then he grabbed his keys and wallet, kissed the top of my head without looking at me, and left. I heard his car start in the driveway and pull away. I stood there in our bedroom alone, wearing a dress I'd bought to save my marriage, and felt something crack inside my chest. 20 minutes later, I drove to the hotel by myself. The line of valets was long, with couples arriving together, the women's hands tucked into their husbands' elbows, laughing about something as they walked toward the entrance. I handed my keys to the attendant and walked in alone, clutching my small purse like it might anchor me. The ballroom was stunning. Cream walls, gold accents everywhere, and massive chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, reflecting light off the polished marble floors. Waiters in black vests circulated with trays of champagne. A string quartet played something classical in the corner that I didn't recognize. Small clusters of people stood talking, everyone dressed in their best, performing the social dance of charity fundraisers. I pulled out my phone and texted Ryan. "I'm here. Where are you?" The response came 30 seconds later. "Be there soon." That was it. "No, sorry for making you